Welcome to Cosmic Narratives, where every story is a journey through time, space, and imagination. Prepare to explore the extraordinary.
The reunion invitation. An unexpected surprise. Sarah sat in her cozy living room, the soft hum of evening traffic barely audible through the window. The day had been long, and she relished the quiet moment with her cup of tea. As she sifted through the day's mail, a plain, cream-colored envelope caught her eye. Her name was scrawled in a familiar handwriting that she hadn't seen in years. With a mix of curiosity and nostalgia, she tore it open. Inside was an invitation, beautifully embossed with gold letters, Class of 2010 High School Reunion. Memories flooded her mind, hallway laughs, football games, late-night study sessions. But among all these, one name stood out, Jake. It had been over a decade since she'd last seen him, their lives pulling them in different directions after high school. Yet, as she stared at the invitation, she couldn't help but wonder how life had treated him, and if he'd even be there. She sighed, folding the invitation back into its envelope. A small, bittersweet smile crossed her face. Has it really been 10 years? She whispered to herself, feeling the tug of old memories. The reunion invitation. An unexpected surprise. Sarah sat in her cozy living room, the soft hum of evening traffic barely audible through the window. The day had been long, and she relished the quiet moment with her cup of tea. As she sifted through the day's mail, a plain, cream-colored envelope caught her eye. Her name was scrawled in a familiar handwriting that she hadn't seen in years. With a mix of curiosity and nostalgia, she tore it open. Inside was an invitation, beautifully embossed with gold letters, Class of 2010 High School Reunion. Memories flooded her mind, hallway laughs, football games, late-night study sessions. But among all these, one name stood out, Jake. It had been over a decade since she'd last seen him, their lives pulling them in different directions after high school. Yet, as she stared at the invitation, she couldn't help but wonder how life had treated him, and if he'd even be there. She sighed, folding the invitation back into its envelope. A small, bittersweet smile crossed her face. Has it really been 10 years? She whispered to herself, feeling the tug of old memories. The reunion. A nervous arrival. The night of the reunion arrived sooner than expected. Sarah stood outside the entrance of the high school gym, now transformed into a grand ballroom for the evening. Strings of lights adorned the entrance, and the muffled sounds of laughter and music drifted through the doors. She took a deep breath, adjusting her dress nervously. The last thing she wanted was to look like she was trying too hard, but the effort she'd put into her appearance said otherwise. As she walked up the steps, her heart pounded with each step. She was about to step back into a world she hadn't been part of for years. Stepping inside, the room was filled with familiar faces, though some bore the marks of time more than others. Sarah spotted groups of people huddled together, laughing and catching up as if no time had passed. She scanned the room, half hoping and half dreading to see Jake. Would he even recognize her? An unexpected encounter. Sarah made her way through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries with old classmates, but her mind was elsewhere. As she passed by the refreshment table, she felt a tap on her shoulder. Turning around, she found herself face to face with Jake. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Jake looked almost the same, maybe a little older, but with the same easy smile she remembered. "Sarah," he asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Jake," she responded, her voice barely above a whisper. They stood there, suspended in the moment, the noise of the reunion fading into the background. Finally, Jake broke the silence. "I didn't think I'd ever see you again." Sarah smiled, the initial shock wearing off. "I didn't think I'd see you either." They both laughed, the tension easing as they fell into conversation as if no time had passed. Rekindling the flame. Old feelings resurface. They found a quieter spot at the edge of the gym, away from the crowd. The conversation flowed easily, each filling in the other on the years that had passed. Jake had moved to the city, built a career, but hadn't settled down. Sarah shared her own stories, her career, her travels, but also how she hadn't found anyone who made her feel like Jake once did. There was a moment of silence after Sarah's confession, both of them avoiding each other's gaze. "I often wondered what would have happened if we had stayed together," Jake finally said, his voice soft. "Me too," Sarah admitted. The air between them grew thick with unspoken words, the spark from their youth still faintly glowing, waiting to be rekindled. A walk down memory lane. After a while, Jake suggested they take a walk around the school. They strolled through the hallways, now empty and echoing with their footsteps. As they walked, they talked about the memories they had made in these very halls, Jake's awkward confession of love outside the chemistry lab, Sarah's triumphant win in the school's talent show, and the endless hours spent studying for finals. They eventually made their way to the football field, now bathed in the soft light of the full moon. The stands were empty, but as they stood there, they could almost hear the echoes of cheering crowds. Jake turned to Sarah, his expression serious. "We made a lot of good memories here, didn't we?" Sarah nodded, her heart full. "We did." There was a pause, then Jake took a step closer. "Maybe it's time we made some new ones." The decision. Section 1, A Heartfelt Confession. They stopped walking, standing in the middle of the field under the moonlight. Jake turned to face Sarah, his eyes searching hers. "Sarah, there's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice unsteady. Sarah felt her heart race, the anticipation almost unbearable. "What is it, Jake?" she asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I never stopped thinking about you. Even after all these years, I couldn't forget you. I've tried to move on, but no one else ever measured up to you." Jake's confession hung in the air, heavy with emotion. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. "I've missed you too, Jake." "More than I ever realized," she admitted, her voice trembling. A new beginning. Jake reached out, gently taking Sarah's hands in his. "So, what do we do now?" he asked, his voice full of hope. Sarah looked up at him, a tear escaping down her cheek. "We don't waste any more time," she said firmly. "We've been given a second chance, and I don't want to let it slip away." Jake smiled, pulling her into a tender embrace. "Neither do I," he whispered into her hair. They stood there for a moment, holding each other, the past and future merging into the present. As they pulled back, Jake leaned in, pressing his lips to Sarah's in a kiss that felt like coming home. The moonlight bathed them in its glow, and for the first time in years, Sarah felt truly content. The future ahead. Moving forward. A few weeks later, Sarah and Jake sat in her living room, looking through the photos from the reunion. The pictures captured all the smiles, laughter, and joy of the night, but for Sarah and Jake, it was only the beginning. They talked about their future, about moving in together, about the places they wanted to travel to, and the life they wanted to build. "I can't wait to see where this journey takes us," Jake said, his hand resting on Sarah's. Sarah smiled, leaning into him. "As long as we're together, I know it'll be amazing." Closing remarks. The camera slowly zoomed out, capturing the couple from behind as they sat together, content and hopeful. They had been given a second chance at love, and they were ready to make the most of it. As the screen faded to black, a final thought lingered. Sometimes, love gives you a second chance, and it's up to you to take it.
Thank you for exploring with us. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Join us again as we dive into new worlds and timeless tales. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars.